Chitra,
Yeah,
are you? Guru Prasad, am I audible? Chitra, am I audible? Chitra,
yeah,
Yes, sir. You are audible. You are audible, sir.
am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
you're
All,
audible.
all right, so let's get ready to start in a couple of minutes. We are hitting 7 o'clock. I think it's a house full here. I just announced earlier, in case those who haven't heard, this program is being also streamed live on the PII RIND Facebook page. It's PII RIND. So those of you who'd like to tell your friends to watch can direct them to the PII RIND Facebook page. Chitra, are we ready to go?
Yeah,
Guru Prasad?
Yes,
Are we
sir.
ready to go?
Yeah, we are ready to go, sir. Yes.
There's 1 minute left by my clock, so I'll wait for it to turn 7. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sashi Nair on behalf of the Press Institute of India, extending to all of you a very warm welcome. Extremely delighted to see that we are house full. We hadn't anticipated more than 100 tuning in for this evening's program. But with Chitra Madhavan making the presentation, one is often more than likely to go wrong with the numbers. Chitra Madhavan, I extend to you a very warm welcome. Am I audible, Chitra?
you're audible. Thanks.
Great pleasure having you here this evening. As all of you know, this is part of the series that the Press Institute of India is running during Madras Week. And before I introduce Chitra, I think most of you know her, but for those who don't, Chitra, you remember the meetings we've had at the Press Institute of India in the last several years where you've made presentations. So you must be, missing the crowds, the physicality of it, but here you have more than 100. And how are you doing in these difficult times?
Managing. Thank you.
Chitra Madhavan, for those of you who don't know her too well, completed her MA and MPhil degrees from the Department of Indian History, the University of Madras, and her PhD from the Department of Ancient History and Archaeology from the University of Mysore. She is the recipient of 2 postdoctoral fellowships from the Department of Culture, the Government of India, and from the Indian Council of Historical Research in New Delhi. She is the author of 9 books, which include The History and Culture of Tamil Nadu in 2 volumes, The Vishnu Temples of South India in 5 volumes, Sanskrit Education and Literature in Ancient and Medieval Tamil Nadu, an epigraphical study, and Temples of Kanchipuram. She's also written the text for a coffee table book, which is called Snapshots of a Bygone Era, a Century of Images, which contains about 100 photographs of monuments of India. Chitra has co-edited a book, South India Heritage, an Introduction, which contains approximately 500 articles on various aspects of the heritage and culture of South India. She's a scholar and historian, well respected and well regarded in the social circuit in Madras and elsewhere. So over to you, Chitra. Look forward to your presentation this evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to this lecture this evening. Press Institute of India, Mr. Shashi Nair in particular, thank you very much. And to Mr. Guru Prasad for all the technical help. There are lots of people who are trying to get into Zoom and are unable to. A small request to those of you who are on Zoom right now and are tech savvy, would it be possible for you to get on to the Facebook so that others can come into Zoom, please?
No, I know. I don't know that.
So those of you who know how to do it, and those of you who don't, please don't bother. But tech-savvy people on Zoom right now, we've reached the maximum of 100 and many other people want to get in. They don't have the Facebook ID. So could you please go to that and make some room for others to join in. Thanks. I'll go directly to the PPT. This is about, are you all able to see the image on the screen? Friends?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right. So this is a presentation on temples of Chennai, as you all know. I haven't been able to go to any new temples because of the lockdown, and I have taken it from all my old presentations. I've kind of put it all together. So now I have about 50 minutes to go through this presentation. These are all small temples. Most of them are very well known in their respective localities, but people from other parts of Chennai may not know about them. So I'm starting with a temple in Mylapore, which is not as famous as the Kapalishwara temple, but those who live in Mylapore and the surrounding areas will be very, very familiar with this Vishnu temple. It's called the Madhava Perumal Kovil. As you all know, Mylapore is the cultural hub. It was also once the commercial hub. Long time back, Mylapore has a great history, going back to at least the 2nd century AD. Recorded history, when a person called Ptolemy, spelled with a P, came all the way, Greco-Roman traveler. He came here and he calls this place as Mylar Farm. That's the name he has given to it. This is called Mylar Farm. Just give me a second, please. There's a technical snag. I'll just be with you in 1 second. Just in 1 second. 1 second. Okay. So Mylapore was a very famous place. It was also the birthplace of one of the 12 Alvars, one of the Mudal Alvars, one of the first Alvars, Pei Alvar, and his Avatar Sthalam, his birthplace, can be seen fairly near the Madhava Perumal temple. Two other Alvars are also associated with Triplicane, Tiruvallikeni, in close proximity of Mylapore, and once, in fact, even the suburb of Mylapore. Tirumalizhai Alvar and Tirumangai Alvar, who were born after Pei Alvar, visited the Tiruvallikeni temple, the Parthasarathi Swami shrine, and have also mentioned Mylapore in passing, though not this temple. This particular Madhava Perumal temple is not one of the Divya Deshams. It is not a temple that is sung about by the Alvars, but it is a very famous temple, and we really don't know exactly how old it is. We don't know. The temple as we see it today, the Gopuram as you see this one, is of modern construction, but it has a very nice history going back. The Sthala Puranam is given in a text called the Brahmanda Puranam, in a section which is nicely aptly called Mylapuri Mahatmya. Okay, this Mayilapur, as we call it today, was known as Mayilai. In fact, one of the Pallava kings, Nandivarman, had the title Mayilai
The pictures
Kapu.
aren't visible.
Sorry?
The pictures aren't visible to me.
The pictures are not visible.
No, no, Chitra, pictures are not visible. We are just seeing the icons, that's all.
There are no pictures visible. Guru Prasad,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Picture,
Can you
the
help me?
pictures is not at all visible, please.
pictures are not visible.
We can see the only icons of image icons.
Yeah.
Can Mr. Guru Prasad help me, please?
Yes, madam, we just double click them, ma'am. From your screen, from your laptop.
Okay. Just give me a second. Give me a second.
The yesterday, as you did yesterday.
Also, you got to go to full screen.
Can you all give me a second, please? Can you see it now?
Others could mute,
No,
please.
no. Yesterday
No,
was
You
fine.
just have to click on the icon. If you click on the icon,
yeah.
it will zoom on. If you just click on the icon, you have gone to the folder, you opened the folder.
I know that, sir. That's exactly what I've been doing.
The folder is open, but you have to click on the icon. Yeah, that is it. You have to click on the icon. Just double click on it, please.
I've done that thrice, sir. I've done that thrice over. Shall I do it the third time also?
First, open it, start sharing. Yeah, first open the folder and then start
Yeah.
sharing.
This
Stop
is probably my
screen sharing.
100th webinar. Okay, I know how to click on it. It's just not working.
Now, first we have to disable the screen sharing first. Then you open it, then share the screen, please.
Ma'am, maybe it's not properly loaded, ma'am. Can you shut down and restart? I guess that should do.
So if you just right click the you can see which software is opening it. Just suggest to see, right click on it and see the properties.
Guru Prasad, what was done yesterday when this happened? There was a dummy.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, she has to do that. I think she did it correctly yesterday.
I think she has to enable screen sharing, isn't it? That's the way you do it, right? Check with her.
That we did it. That's from our side, from the host side. That we have done. That it has been done.
None of the pictures are coming. Yeah, Ramesh. But I think you have to tell her because I'm also not very thing with her. Shall I give you her number? Yeah. Just a minute. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello, sir. Sir, this is Guru Prasad from this one. Press Institute of India. Miss Chitra Madam is not able to rejoin. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Since the participants are
She's
100,
she's
It
not
is
able
because
to
the participants have exceeded 100 and somebody
yeah,
has to
she's
leave.
not, yeah, so some of you leave in fact, because people you can log on to this our Facebook ID. She's not able to join. Yeah, some of you can leave, please.
all
I'll
right.
ask her to join. Madam, you can join madam 96 na irukku. Udane join பண்ணுங்க. Udane join பண்ணுங்க. எல்லாம் நிறைய பேர் அனௌன்ஸ் பண்ணிட்டேனா. Thank you.
Hello, Guru Prasad.
She
Is it happening?
no, she is not able to join now. I made that announcement now.
Yeah, hello.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am.
I got logged out of my own meeting.
Okay. Have you been able to sort it out, Chitra?
Yeah. I couldn't come back on Zoom because it was full. It didn't allow the speaker to come
Okay,
in.
doesn't matter. It's all right. We'll wait. Don't worry. It's okay. We are all new to this. So there's nothing to
Yeah,
happen.
please go ahead, madam.
Please go ahead.
Can you all see this now?
No, we can only see the
Yes.
icon.
There are no images. There are no
Image.
images. Like
Okay, I
yesterday,
don't know how to make this work because in all my previous meetings it's worked. Now suddenly it's not working. Don't know what to do. Sorry.
Ma'am, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, please tell.
Can you just stop the screen sharing,
Yeah.
open the image, and then start sharing?
That's what. Okay, fine. Okay, I'll do it.
Can you see the image in your screen?
Yes, we can see the image of
Yeah, Shiva Shakti.
Shiva Shakti. Yeah. Yes. Now we
there you
can,
are. So it's all right. Yeah, now we can see one of the images.
Now you can scroll accordingly. It is
Yeah.
fantastic. Good.
Good. So whoever has
Thank you,
given
thank
that
you.
idea, thank you very much. So Chitra,
Thank you.
I think
yeah,
you can
thank
just
you,
stop.
Chitra. Thank you. We can see.
Thank you.
Okay, fine.
request Chitra to go to full screen.
Okay. So this is the, after many a hiccup, so this is the Madhava Perumal temple's Gopuram. Now the Sthala Puranam or the traditional story of this temple mention, it's given in the Brahmanda Puranam, and it clearly mentions that this was the ashram of Bhrigu Maharishi, and sage Bhrigu had a daughter, Mahalakshmi herself, who was called Amritavalli, and Vishnu came here to marry her. So another place for this part of Mylapore is called Kalyanapuram. All right, because he got married, Vishnu got married to Lakshmi over here. Give me a second, I'm having, so there are some wonderful sculptures in the Mantapam outside. This is Trivikrama. It's not a very ancient sculpture, as you all know, but in this very, very small space, to put one foot directly on top like that is a very interesting piece of art. Garuda Ruda Vishnu, Vishnu on Garuda. These are not old sculptures, but nevertheless. This temple also is known for sanctum for Varaha, Bhu Varaha, Varaha carrying Bhudevi. He's called Jnanapiran, a very, very powerful deity who is worshipped as the embodiment of knowledge. Varaha is also known to shower knowledge like Hayagriva, the other manifestation of Vishnu. And therefore, during exam time, you can see a whole lot of children coming into the Madhava Perumal temple in order to worship Varaha. We now quickly go all the way from Mylapore. We know that there are so many other temples in Mylapore, but I've just picked up one or two. We go to a place in Mylapore, in Saukatpet, a street that's called Mulla Street. So narrow that your car and my car can't get in. We'll have to go by auto or on foot. It's a very, very narrow street. And when you go there, you see a temple called the Aranganatha Swami temple. This is for Ranganatha. Georgetown, the Saukarpet area is chock full of tiny temples. Some very tiny, some fairly big, spacious in fact inside. I'll show you one of those also. But the streets, the approach streets are really, really very narrow. But once you get in, it's an oasis of peace and serenity. So this temple, this is how it is. You go directly from the into this half-finished gopuram and you go directly inside. That's how you enter. You can now see how narrow that street is. Now this is for the main deity is Ranganatha or Aranganatha in Tamil. It is very different from the one in Srirangam. Srirangam is huge. This is a much smaller deity, and he has 4 hands instead of the 2 that you see with the Srirangam deity. Here he holds the Shankha and the Chakra, and one hand is in Abhaya Hasta in blessing, and the other hand rests on his thigh. This is a north-facing temple, which is also a little rare. The Vimanam, the main structure or the superstructure over the main sanctum, is like in Srirangam called the Pranavakara Vimanam. It's also called the Ranga Vimanam, just like in Srirangam. What is interesting here is an Utsava Murti, a processional image of Parthasarathi, is found over here. It was kept for some time in the Parthasarathi Swami temple in Tiruvallakeni and then brought to this temple, Ranganatha Swami temple in Saukarpet. So this is the Utsava Murti over here, like this. Hardly anyone goes to this temple. Goddess or Lakshmi here is obviously called Ranganayaki Taya, Goddess Ranganayaki, just as in Srirangam. There is a sanctum for Rama, which is very interesting because here Rama is seen not only with Lakshmana and Sita and Hanuman, is also seen with Bharata and Shatrughna, which is very rare. So I have taken this photo many years ago. I'm not sure if it looks like this now or it's completely painted in very bizarre colors, like your pinks and your greens and blues and purples. Very likely, I don't know. I hope it has remained this way. This little Vimanam, this Ranga Vimanam or the Pranavakara Vimanam, is covered with stucco sculptures, some of them being the different avatars of Vishnu. Very nicely done sculptures. Very many of them. In this picture, a little weather worn. So this is how this very tiny temple looks. But I assure you, if you come out of that very busy, very noisy, narrow street, you come into this temple, you will find yourself in a premises that's absolutely peaceful, absolutely quiet, and you'll wonder how that street outside actually looks like what it does. So not very old Mantapa. All the Utsavams, all the festivals are celebrated here in a very, very grand manner. It's small, but simply perfect. And these are some of the sculptures, like in the Madhava Perumal temple, that you find on the pillars. Here is Vishnu over here. This is one of the Alvars who was a chieftain. This is Tirumangai Alvar. And here we can mistake this for Vishnu, but we must look a little close. Of course, he has the Shakra, he has the Chakra, and he has the Gada. But Vishnu will not hold one finger up like this. This is called Suchi or Tarjani Hasta, and that Hasta, that hand, can be in this gesture, can be held in this gesture only by a Dwarapalaka or a door guardian. I'll go back. Now this is Vishnu. Same thing. Shankha, Chakra, Gada. This hand is in Abhaya Hasta. It's in blessing. Now I'm going back to this one and also look at the stance. He's slightly bent. This is how Dwarapalakas look. And this is the hand I'm talking about. One finger up. Notice all Dwarapalakas, mostly, not all, 90% of the Dwarapalakas will be like this. Okay? Then there's a Garuda over here, wings and all. These are the wings over there in Anjali Hasta. Alright? And where there is Garuda, there must also be Hanuman. So these are the two great devotees of Vishnu over here. We go to another temple, not very far from the Ranganatha Swami temple, which is on Milla Street. We are still in South Carpet. We are in that very, very crowded, noisy area. And we are going to Muthaiya Street. There we will find a temple for Venkatamudayan, Srinivasa, as he is in Tirumala. So here, the street is not much broader than the Mulla street, but here there's a big gopuram, and this is how goddess Alamelu Manga, Alamel Tayar looks over here, and this is Venkatamudayan, Srinivasa. This is exactly how they look in the main sanctum. This too is not a very ancient temple. We don't know the exact date of origin, but the story goes that there was a sannyasi in this area who had come from North India, and Lord Venkateshwara appeared in his dream and told him to build a temple for him here. The sannyasi had absolutely no wherewithal, no money whatsoever, but since this was an order from the Lord himself, he went about collecting money and slowly was able to build this temple. The deity, incidentally, is very tall, very large. It's about 8 feet in height. There is also a sanctum for Lord Ranganatha over here, just as you see in the Mulla Street Ranganatha Swami temple. Now, this temple, as I said, is not very old at all, and this is made to look like a chariot. You all know of the great chariot-shaped temples of India. There are many in the Kumbakonam area. You have, I'll come back to this, you have Dharasuram, like this, which is exactly like a chariot. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And this little temple for Venkatamudayan off this little narrow street in South Carpet has also been made to look like a chariot. Now this is goddess Alamel Manga during her Brahmotsavam. Now this is the peculiarity of this temple. She rides on not Garuda, but a Garudi. This is a female Garuda, and she rides on Garudi over here. The other very important thing is that the image of Alamel Mangatayar she wears a nose stud. Now what's so unique about this, you're asking? Because so many other goddesses also wear nose studs. Here, there is a hole in the nose for that stud to go through. Don't ask me how that was made, but it was. The Brahmotsavam, or the annual festival for this goddess, there is an annual festival for the god, an annual festival for the goddess here is celebrated at the same time as the one for Alamel Manga Tayar in Tirchanur, which as you know is in Tirupati. The other very, very peculiar feature of this shrine is that there is a sanctum for Narsimha, Lakshmi Narsimha. That's fine. So many temples have sanctums for Narsimha. But when you go to the Narsimha sanctum, you generally find that the Utsava Murti, the processional image, is not Narsimha. It will be standing Vishnu, flanked by goddesses Sri Devi and Bhudevi, Lakshmi and the goddess of the earth, respectively. However, in this temple, not only is the main stone deity of Narsimha, the Utsava Murti is also Lakshmi Narsimha, which is actually very, very rare. Then you also have a Rama sanctum and you have a Varaha sanctum. What's really important about this Varaha sanctum is, and I forgot to mention, it's like that in the Madhava Perumal temple as well. The Varaha sanctum is right next to this temple tank. I don't have a photo of that shrine, but it's right next to this temple tank, just as it is in Tirumala. So if you go to the mountaintop temple for Venkateshwara, Tirumala, you find that there is a shrine for Varaha next to that Pushkarini, next to the tank, which people who know tradition worship that Varaha before going to the shrine of Venkateshwara there. Here also that same tradition is followed. Okay, a nice temple tank inside the premises, inside the compound wall of this is called incidentally the Bairagi Mat Venkatamudayan temple, and this is on Muthaiya Street. So when things are fine again, whenever that is going to be, please do go to South Carpet. It's really chock full of temples, and I've just shown you 2 Vishnu temples. So having seen 3 Vishnu temples in all in this presentation till now, we now move to a Shiva temple. Many of you may know about this, many may not. It is again in crowded Kodambakam. And this is the Vengishwarar temple. Today we call this place Kodambakam, but long ago it was called Puliyur Kotam, and that was in the Chola times. Now, what is a kotam? A kotam is a geographical division that comes under the bigger geographical division called Mandala. So this area was Puliyur Kotam. Puliyur, the name comes because of Pulikal Munivar. Pulikal, most of you know Tamil, is a person who has the legs of a tiger. Who had the legs of a tiger? A saint called Vyagrapada. Vyagrapada is the exact Sanskrit translation of Pulikal. And Saint Vyagrapada, along with another great devotee called Patanjali, were closely associated with Lord Nataraja of Chidambaram. And in this temple, the main sanctum, of course, has a Shivalinga who is worshipped as Vengishwarar. And next to the Shivalinga, you find an image of Vyagrapada worshipping Shiva there. So Vyagrapada has a lot of importance in this temple, and Puliyur Kotam probably because of Pulikal Munivar. Now let's go into the temple. I don't have too many photographs because most times they don't allow photographs into of any temple. They are very wary these days. I don't know why. So this is the main sanctum. This is how it looks. Most of you, I think, are aware that a sanctum that is shaped like this, which is not square, which is not rectangular, which is not circular, is apsidal in shape. This is oval in shape at the back, the front will be flat. And this is called Gaja Prishta because Gaja means elephant and Prishta means back. So most times when we go into a temple, we don't bother to see the shape of the main sanctum. We are interested in praying to the deity, which is all very well. That's exactly how it should be. But if we could also pay some attention to the dimensions and proportions and the actual shape of the sanctum, the gopuram, etc., we'll be very enriched by this knowledge. So right in the heart of Chennai, and I'm going to show you quite a few in this presentation as well, we have many Gajaprishta sanctums. And if you see a Gajaprishta sanctum, rest assured that it belongs to the Chola times. So this, in the core of the Vengishwara temple, the Gopuram, I forgot to mention to you, is much later. It's a modern Gopuram added on to this temple, but the core of this shrine, the Vengishwara temple, is a Gajaprishta Vimana. That's how it looks from the back. So if you go on that 100 feet road, which comes to the rear of this temple, you can clearly see this shrine from there. So this is Vengishwara Gajaprishta. All this modern absurdity has come up, which is so sad. This is in concrete and almost completely obscuring the view of a very ancient Chola shrine. This is how it is, but much plastered over that as well. Now, all of you, I'm sure, are aware of this. When we go to Mamalapuram, this Mahabalipuram as we call it, UNESCO World Heritage Site, and when we go to this center place, which is called the Panchapandavarathas, one of the monolithic monuments there looks like this from the front and looks like this from the back. This is the earliest representation of a Gajaprishta temple. And in order to make that very explicit to us, the Pallava sculptors, the clever, intelligent Pallava sculptors who are very articulate in their own expressions, made the big stone into a Gajaprishta temple and turned the small stone into a Gaja, an elephant with its Prishta in the same direction. So that's the earliest. And then the Cholas took over from the Pallavas and they started constructing many a Gajaprishta temple, and we see so many of them in Chennai. Incidentally, in the Vengishwara temple, the name of the goddess Parvati is Shanta Nayaki Ambal. From the Vengishwara temple, not too far away, in fact walking distance, is the Kaushikeshwara temple, also in Kodambakam. Very small shrine, and it's on, if anybody wants to visit it, it's on Puliyur Shivan Street. This also is a temple that belongs to the Chola era. This is how it is. Of course, much renovated. It's not Gajaprishta. It's a perfectly rectangular sanctum. And the goddess Parvati here is called Swarnambikai Amman. And inscription dated 1259, 13th century, which is Chola, which was discovered here, belongs to a particular chieftain called Vijaya Ganda Gopala. See, the thing is, in schools and in colleges across the country, students don't learn about local history, and we are the poorer for it. So when the Cholas were ruling over entire Tamil Nadu, there were many chieftains, and one such chieftain was Vijaya Ganda Gopala, very powerful person. He was ruling from his headquarters, Kanchipuram, over almost the entire area that we call Chennai today, which was actually a collection of many small villages. And we have an inscription of this person whose name is also mentioned over there. And from that inscription, we find that this temple was not called Kaushikeshwara as it is today. It's a Shiva temple. It was called Thiruvalli Kovil Udaya Nayanar. That was the name of this temple. And it was the area in which it was situated was Kuliyur Kotam, because it's so very close to the Venkeshwara temple. And it was situated in the geographical division called Kulotunga Chola Balanadu, which was again situated in Jayamkonda Chola Mandalam. Look at the number of details we are able to get from here. So this is the Bharadwajeshwara temple. Little small sculptures of the Chola times still over here. Okay, all these in the Bharadwajeshwara temple. Then we next go to the Dandeshwara temple, which is in Velachery. The Dandeshwara temple is one of Chennai's very important Shiva Sthalams. It's a Shiva temple, very, very modern Gopuram, but this is also a Chola era temple. And it is said that, that Shiva vanquished Yama and in a place called Tirukadayur for the sake of his devotee Markandeya. And from Yama, he took his dandam or his stick, and Yama performed penance to Shiva in this place in Velachery, and he was given back his dandam over here. So the goddess here is called Karunambika, and this is how it is. Once we go into the interior of the temple, and I don't have any photos of the interior of this temple, we find that there are some inscriptions still there. And this place was called Velicheri long time back in the Chola times. It was also called Jina Chintamani Chaturvedi Mangalam. The name of the deity kind of remains unchanged. He was called Tirudandishwara Deva, Tirudandishwara Mudayar, Tirudandishwara Mudaya Nayanar, Tirudandishwara Mudaya Mahadeva, etc. What we also find in an inscription in this temple is a mention of a Sabha. And a Sabha is actually an administrative organization in a village, and they were also looking after some of the affairs of this temple that is there. So this is the Dandeshwara temple in Velachery. Certainly worth visiting. One of the oldest in this part. Velachery may be a new suburb as far as Chennai is concerned, but its antiquity goes back to the Chola times. There is, I'm showing you this because there is also a Yoga Narsamma temple in Velachery. I don't have pictures of it with me, so I'm not showing it to you. That is also an extremely ancient shrine, and it was not in a good condition, but recently been renovated and back to normal. So this is the Dandeshwara temple in Velachery. It has a huge temple tank, which you can see from the Velachery main road. These temple tanks were all meant for religious purposes, yes, and I mentioned this before, they were meant for water harvesting. But unfortunately, most temple tanks run dry like this today and literally gone to the dogs. You can see that one there. From here, we go to a place that you all know, Trishuram. Trishuram is now known because there's a railway station just opposite the Meenambakam airport. And in fact, many people these days go to the airport by train, and then they hop off and go into the airport. So Trishulam again is a place of great antiquity. It was a Chola time temple. There are Chola inscriptions here. This is how the outside looks. Once again, I don't have too many photographs. How do we know it's a Chola temple? Two things. One, there is a Gajaprishta Vimanam, of which I did not have a photograph because I was denied permission to shoot. And there are Chola inscriptions also. It's a fairly big temple campus ringed by hills, very scenic. And when was this constructed? The inscriptions will let us know that it was built in the reign of Kulothunga Chola I, who ruled from 1070 to 1125. Very much a Gajaprishta Vimanam. The goddess here is called Tripura Sundari. There are Chola inscriptions and Pandya inscriptions, later period inscriptions as well. One very important information that we can get from the inscriptions here is that the place we call Pallavaram today was actually called Pallavapuram in connection with the Pallavas who ruled over this area. Now today we call the Shiva inside, the Shivalinga inside, we worship him, we call him Trishulanatha. That's fine. But the original name was Tiruchuram Udaya Nayanar, Churattur Nadu, Puliyur Kotam. So these are the details. Many more details do we get from the inscriptions. Once again, there was a Sabha in this village, which was also actively involved in the functioning of this temple. Some of the modern sculptures that you see over here, much of the antiquity of this temple has unfortunately been marred by construction work that has happened in recent times. You all know of a place called Vandalur, which is close to Chennai. This is why I labeled this lecture as temples in and around Chennai, in very close proximity to the city, but not literally within the premises of the city's limits. So here we are going to a place called Oonamanjeri. These are photographs that I took a long time back. Since then, this temple has been renovated and again painted in multi-hues. I don't want to show all that. So I'm showing you an old photograph. This is a small temple for Rama. It's an old temple, but in the Vijayanagara times of the 15th, 16th centuries, there was a lot of activity over here. So this is how this very small temple looks. What you have in front here is not the Dwajastambam. This is not the flag post. This is the Deepastamba. This on top of which would have been a lamp and which was lit in the evenings to illuminate the temple premises. There you go. Nice little temple. And on the walls, you have this image. This is clearly the crest or the royal emblem of the Vijayanagara dynasty. And this is over here, clearly showing you that the Vijayanagaras contributed to it. It's a Kodanda Ramaswamy temple, and Rama is enshrined with Sita and Lakshmana and Hanuman in the main sanctum. And these are how some of the sculptures on the Vimanam actually look. A small little temple tank to the rear of the shrine, but much renovated now. Now, what is very interesting is a set of copper plate inscriptions was discovered in the premises of this temple, Vijayanagara times, 16th century. Those of you who can read Telugu or Kannada will clearly see the last line says Sri Virupaksha. And that's how the Vijayanagara rulers signed off their documents, not in their own name, but in the name of the god who was the presiding deity of the empire, Virupaksha, in the city of Hampi. So this inscription is in Sanskritam. The script is the Nandinagari script. The Sanagari, which transformed into Devanagari, the script in which we write this language now. So it talks of something very interesting. It says that Achyutaraya, who was the younger brother and successor of the very illustrious Krishnadevaraya in the 16th century, gave the people of Uhinai, and that's what Oonamanjeri was called 500 years ago, gave the people or the great scholars of Uhinai a land grant, and also gave some donation to this Rama temple and also to a Shiva temple. The names of the 40 odd scholars and the allotment, the shares given to them are also mentioned in this copper plate inscription. and details of the land boundaries, the boundaries of the land that was given, etc. It also very clearly says that this Achyutaraya was seated on the banks of river Tungabhadra, so far away in present-day Hampi, when he gave this order to a small group of very, very good scholars in Uhinai. So that's the Vijayanagara connection with a place called Unamanjeri. Hardly known. Mandalore is known because of the zoo, but Unamanjeri is not known. So this is the copper plate inscription. And please note, this is the seal, that the inscription is intact. This is the seal, this is the wild boar, this is the sun and the moon. Just like you saw the photograph that I showed you, the same thing is here. This is to show that this was a royal order. Right? From Unamanjeri, we come to a place called Tirumullai Vail, near the industrial suburb of Padi. Now again, a very, very ancient temple. You all know that Tiruniyana Sambandar came to the Kapaleshwara temple. So it is one of the 275 Padal Petra Sthalams. A Padal Petra Sthalam is a temple to which a Nayanmar, a great devotee of Shiva, one of the 63, one or many of the Nayanmars having come and sung about the main deity, Shiva, becomes a Padal Petra Sthalam, of which totally there are 275. Kapaleshwara temple in Chennai and the Marundeshwara temple in Thiruvanmiyur in Chennai are among two. We also have the Thiruvathiyur temple, which doesn't strictly fall within the Chennai zone. The Adipurishwara, the Tyagaraja Swami temple in Thiruvathiyur also. The temple in Tirunallai Vail is also one of the 275 Padal Petra Sthalams, because Sundaramurti Nayanar of the 8th century, who also visited the Thiruvathiyur temple, came over here and sang about the greatness of this temple. So this is a modern Gopuram once again. But if we look beyond the Gopuram into the structure at the back, there we will see, just give me a second, we will see a Gajaprishta Vimanam, just as we saw in Kodambakam in the Vengishwara temple, which means that this main sanctum belongs to the Chola times. But I seem to be saying something that is not quite right. I said that Sundaramurti Nayanar of the 8th century came and sang about God Shiva here. And in the very next sentence, I'm telling you that this Vimanam is of the Chola period, maybe of the 12th century. How can that be right? How could Sundaramurti have come to a temple that was not yet built? That's not the answer. When Sundaramurti came here, in all likelihood, this was a temple that was built of brick and supplemented with wood, metal, whatever. But when the Cholas came and they found that the brick structure was inadequate, or perhaps it was dilapidated, perhaps it was crumbling, they decided to build a new Garbhagriha, a new sanctum, the Shivalinga being the same. So renovation happened during the Chola times, and that's what we see. And in subsequent periods, more and more shrines, shrines came to be built. Extra additions also happened in this temple. There's just one sculpture that I want to show you. This is on the Gopuram. This is Ganesha in a very different form. There are 32 kinds of Ganeshas in all, of which this is one of the most important. Multi-headed, multi-armed, seated on a lion. This is the Heramba Ganapati form of Ganesha over here. You can see him on the Kapaleshwara temple Gopuram. You can see this Heramba Ganapati in many places, but we must really know how to identify him. This form of Shiva like this is called Jwara Hareshwara. In fact, there is a Jwara Hareshwara. Jwara is disease, not just fever, is disease. Hara is to remove, Ishvara is Shiva. There is a Jwara Hareshwara temple in Kanchipuram as well. Just give me a minute. I need to do something to stop this person from scribbling here. I don't know exactly what to do, but anyway, will whoever is scribbling, please stop scribbling? It's a request.
You can stop the annotations.
Yeah, how do I do that, please?
Ma'am, you can go to the settings and you can change it.
Yeah, I've gone to annotate, and then how do I do?
And there'll be like share screening. If you want to disable, you can disable it.
Just seeing how to disable it.
Akka, as you share your screen, you will get one panel down. In that, if you go to the annotation and check for the more options.
I am with annotate. I am with annotate now, but I don't know which option.
If you check more options, you will get stop annotation.
I can't make people wait. I just go ahead.
I think annotate is a toggle.
Ignore that, Chitra. We'll ignore.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Lovely lecture. Why should we spoil it? Yeah.
Just go ahead, please.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the Gaja Prishta Vimanam as we see it. This, in fact, is Shiva himself. You know him with one head, but he is also known to have 5. There's 1, 2, 3. There's one at the back, and there's one on top. Panchavakra is called. He's got 5 faces. So this is the outside of the Tirunelai Vayil temple. What you see on the outside is a 16-pillar Vijayanagara type mandapa. It was not built in the Vijayanagara times, but there are some nice sculptures, a little tarnished, but this is Shiva on his Rishabha. And just show you some. Just look at this. How nicely has this artist done it? Unfortunately, this is coming in the way. So there are 2 parrots, tail feathers up. This has been done in such a nice way. Nataraja, little things that we need to see. Rama is here, Krishna, Vishnu in his Matsya Avatara. Sometimes on the pillars of temples you can see the Dashavatara. This is Hanuman, and if you can look beyond the jasmine flowers, you will see that he is not holding a gada in his hand, he is not holding a mace, he is holding the stalk of a lotus bud. And if you look carefully, Hanuman is walking, he's striding forward, and the tail has gone above his head. If you see a Hanuman like that, rest assured that it is a type of Hanuman called Veera Hanuman, who became extremely popular in the Vijayanagara times. Striding forward, tail coiled above his head, the right hand in Abhaya Hasta in blessing, and the left hand holding the stalk of a lotus bud. You can see this everywhere in Hampi. Here and there is painting, is sculpture, whatever. Now this form of Shiva is called Bhikshatana Murti. When Shiva removed the 5th head of Brahma, he got a curse and he went around as a mendicant. He generally is unclad when he is Bhikshatana, and with his jata, his matted hair shown very prominently, with a deer jumping up to get the leaves from his hand. So that's Shiva, to cut a long story short, as Bhikshatana. You also see here Nandikeshwara. This is Shiva's Nandi, and holding the attributes of Shiva, the antelope and the axe. This is incidentally an axe. Nandi is shown like this in many sculptures. A Dwarapalaka over here. This is Indra riding on his Airavata. Many other sculptures also. Ganesha. So we really need to look at these. This is Surya standing absolutely straight, which is what we call as Samabhanga, no bends in the body. 2 lotuses, 2 full-blown lotuses at chest level, and a mandala around his head. That's Surya for you. And very many other deities. This is Parvati worshipping the Shivalinga, which tells the story of the Sthala Puranam of the Kanchipuram temple, where she had made a linga out of sand and was worshipping it. And when the river Vegavati came as the Kanchipuram was flooded because of the river Vegavati, she hugged the linga in order to save it. And that's the Shivalinga you see in the Ekamarnatha temple in Kanchipuram. Vishnu in all his glory, dancers, musicians, all of that. So each of these pillars is a monolith. Imagine, where do you have any rock anywhere near the Tirumalai Vayil or Padi area. So each stone was brought from a very, very long distance away, and some modern paintings on the ceiling. Very, very clearly is this a Vijayanagara type pillar, not of the Vijayanagara dynasty, but that pattern has been copied in later times. Ganesha, Kartikeya, we have a whole lot of sculptures. Shiva's form, manifestation as Bhairava, Bhairava as in dog, and this form of Shiva who is with a dog is always called Bhairava. Right. Kali is here. Okay, we just keep, and donors who have given money for building this mandapa as well. Jesters, everything in the world, everything that you want to know, animals, birds, flowers, creepers, reptiles also, sometimes you find inside a temple. Okay, I just pass through the next few slides a little fast. Incidentally, this is a cowherd or a shepherd with a sack on his head, standing in the hot sun, leaning on his stick, waiting for his cattle or his goats to come back. We go from Tirumalai Vayil. Okay, there are two other things about Tirumalai Vayil that I want to show you. One is that there are lots of Chola inscriptions there, one of which belongs to the 10th century, and the name that's given in that inscription is Parthivendra Varman. Those of you who have read Kalki Krishnamurti's magnum opus Ponniyin Selvan will know of a certain Parthivendra Varman, who has been, according to some historians, believe is Aditya Chola, the elder brother of Rajaraja Chola, who was murdered. Now, in this temple, the Nandi faces outwards. It doesn't face Shiva. He is with his back to Shiva. Now, why would that be? It's because they were expecting an enemy army to come, and the king of that area prayed to Shiva to protect his people from that invading army. And Shiva simply told Nandi to take care of them. And so Nandi turned the other way and protected this temple and this area. There is a very, very interesting 13th century inscription. I want to mention this to you. It says that a lady dancer from the Ekambreshwara temple in Kanchipuram donated an image of Parvati to this temple. That's fine. Moreover, she gave a lot of gold and jewels. The inscription is very, very detailed. I'll read it out for you. She gave one gold fillet, one gold crescent, one gold necklace containing 8 superior pearls, 528 second-class pearls, 13 long corals, and 40 round corals, and all of it in gold. The gold amount of gold she gave for this ornament was 10.5 karanj. A karanj is a standard gold weight of the Chola times. She also gave a dish, a plate, and a cup. All this did this lady do over here. Goddess Parvati in the Tirumalai Vayil, this is the Mashila Manishwara temple, is called Kodi Idai Amman. Very, very famous goddess Parvati over here. Kodi Idai literally means she whose waist is like a creeper. Now, this is one of the 3 temples that people visit on a Paurnami day. The other 2 Parvatis that they visit are one in a place called Melur, which is near Minju, on the outskirts of Chennai. This is the Thirumanangeshwara temple, that is Tirugudai Amman. The next one is the Tyagaraja Swami temple in Tiruvattriyur, which is Vadigudai Amman. So, the Tirugudai Amman is a representation of Ichha Shakti. Vadigudai Amman in Tiruvattriyur is a representation of Jnana Shakti. And the Kudayudai Amman in Tirumalai Vayil is a representation of Kriya Shakti. So all these 3 Shaktis, these great goddesses, are visited on a Paurnami night by many, many devotees. We now go, this is a picture that you're seeing on the screen of the Padi temple, which is called the Tiruvalishwaram. Again, extremely ancient, modern Gopuram, Gajaprishta Vimanam. So this is the 3rd Gajaprishta Vimanam that I've shown you in the Masilamaneshwara temple, Tirumalai Vayil, Bengeshwara temple, Kodambakam, and now in the Tiruvalishwara temple in Padi. Shiva temple, this is also a Padal Petrastanam because Tirunjana Sambandar, the 7th century boy saint, came over here and sang about the greatness of Shiva. This is in a place also called Puliyur Nadu in Jayakonda Chola Mandalam. Vijay Gandagopala's inscription is also seen over here. Now, you may all have heard of a lady called Sembian Mahadevi. Sembian Mahadevi was an extremely great queen about whom we don't read about in history books. Her husband Gandaraditya, who was a Chola king, died early, and she lived on. She lived a very, very long life. Also, the mother of a king named Madhurantaka Uttama Chola. A lot about that is there again in this book called Ponniyin Selvan. Her inscription is here. One of Rajendra Chola's inscriptions, meaning an inscription of the reign of Rajendra Chola, records a contribution of 44 manikam, that is rubies, 8 maragatam, sapphire, 32 vairam, diamonds, and 21 pearls, in addition to 5 karanji of gold to this temple. So these are the many details that are given in the inscriptions. Huge donations were given. Unfortunately, many of these inscriptions have been obliterated in modern times in the name of renovation. All too sad. We come to Purushavakam, and this is the Gangadishwara temple in Purushavakam. This place was full of Pureshai trees. Pureshai is the Kalasha in Sanskritam and the flame of the forest, full of Pureshai trees, and that's why this is called Purushavakam. It was also believed that this was the Stalavriksham, or the sacred tree of this temple. Modern Gopuram, yes, a very, very ancient temple that has been completely modernized. This is very, very sad. Historians, archaeologists have recorded the presence of Chola inscriptions here, Vijayanagara inscriptions as well, but it almost all gone. The last one that was seen here, it registers, very interesting, it registers a donation made by a person to the Thiruvanmiyur temple in the 13th century. Now, why should somebody inscribe a donation made to a place as far away as Thiruvanmiyur on the walls of a temple in Purushavakam? There could be 2 reasons for this. A group of scholars will tell you that probably the Madhundeshwara temple was dilapidated at one point of time, and some stones from there were carried to build several other temples inside the city. In fact, for example, several of the temples in Mylapore also have inscriptions talking about donations to the Thiruvanmiyur temple. Highly likely that because Madhundeshwara temple was in a dilapidated condition, the stones from there were carted off to build other shrines. The other possibility is that you send a donation to some temple, all right, but you can etch that act of charity in another temple. That's also known to happen. We have examples of that in various other temples. Whichever way it was, this inscription was found over here. Now, Gangadishwara, we don't know what the ancient name of this god was. Today we call him Gangadishwara, an epithet of Shiva, which clearly means that he who bore the river Ganga. This is how the main sanctum looks. No traces of any antiquity whatsoever. This is the Ambal sanctum for goddess Parvati. This is how the Utsav Mukti looks. Worship, everything is perfect. It's a lovely little temple, but can you see the amount of modernization that has happened? All the tiles and everything. A temple tank over here, it's a small little temple tank, and a huge, very modern image of Shiva as Gangadhara. The person who is worshipping here, him, Shiva, is Bhagiratha, whom we all know is an ancestor of Rama, who wanted the Ganga to come down to earth and pray to Shiva. So this is there. This is the Gangadishwara temple. Very, very old shrine, but no traces of antiquity whatsoever today. As I said, festivals. Then one of my last slides will be, this is a Perumal temple. It's on Vellalar Street. Srinivasa Perumal is the main deity over here. The Gangadishwara temple is extremely well known. This little Perumal Kovil is not known. It's very close to the Gangadishwara temple. Those who want to see probably the cleanest temple in Chennai should go to the Srinivasa Perumal temple in Purushavakam. Apparently, there is an award which is bestowed on clean temples. And this temple has won it several years in a row. Alannel Mangatayar is the goddess over here. Very, very tiny shrine. I don't know the antiquity because there are no inscriptions and no traces of sculpture or architecture from ancient times. There's nothing at all. At least the Gangadishwara temple had something and it has been recorded. We don't know how old this is, but nevertheless, this is one of the smaller temples in Chennai. This is Sudarshana, the representation of the chakra or the discus of Vishnu. A lovely little temple. Not many people know about it. This is the main sanctum. Please do visit it if you want to see a clean temple, which is somewhat very rare today. So I think if my count is right, we've covered about 12 or 13 temples. Many of you probably know about them. Many of you may not, because sometimes we go only to local temples. Many of them are extremely ancient, going back to the Chola period, going back even earlier. We have a city which was once a collection of small villages and then made into Madras, which is the Chennai of today. Luckily, traces of antiquity in each place, in each suburb, and even in the main places of Chennai. It's just that we need to open our eyes. When we go into a temple, search for what's old. We have to take it all in. The Sthala Puranams or the traditional stories, I'm not using the word mythology, the traditional stories associated with each of these temples is also very, very important. The Sthala Vrikshams or the trees that are in worship in the temple are also important because each of these was once in a sacred grove of these trees, this species of trees, Purasai Vakam, the Purasai tree, all of that is gone. Mylapore was a Punnai Vanam, full of Punnai trees, all that is gone. So you have only one species of that particular tree inside the compound wall of the temple as a Sthala Vriksham, and we need to pay attention to that, as also to the upkeep of temple tanks, which is of paramount importance. They were meant to be, and I know I'm repeating, these were meant to be water harvesting units. We've done away with the inlets through which the water would come into the temple tank, clogged with rubbish, clogged with plastic. We've done away with the outlet that would take away excess water. And then we talk about water scarcity. Our ancients had done it all. They had set up a perfectly nice plan for enough water, enough trees, enough everything. And we've done away with all of that and we complain. So let's understand that we need a deeper understanding of these religious edifices, which was not only for religion, but plenty for social good as well. And thanking the Press Institute of India, thanking Mr. Shashi Nair very much. I will conclude my lecture. If you have any questions, please ask.
Chitra, thank you. Before I miss out on this, can you hear me?
Yes.
There is a question, before the other locals here will ask, there is a question from Sarita Bose, who's in Calcutta, and she's been watching this program. So she has a general question for you. She says, what is the most common god or goddess found in Madras temples?
Not an easy question to answer. Vishnu and Shiva, both.
All right. So I think if she's listening, she will have the answer. So those of you who want to have questions, you probably can unmute and ask Chitra directly.
So following up on that Calcutta question, see, Muruga is a very primitive deity in Tamil Nadu, going back to ancient times. So Murugan temples also should abound. So can you talk a little bit about why that was missing in today's lecture?
The Murugan temple, standalone Murugan temples, you have some in the Georgetown area and all that. But mostly the Murugan shrines, as far as Chennai are concerned, are inside the premises of Shiva temples. Right?
Yep, I accept the answer.
Okay, thank you.
And I always had another question. I might have asked you that in Chennai when I was there.
Okay.
That question pertains to the sanctuary of Sanishwara or Saturn
Yeah.
inside Kapalishwara temple. So, and I've asked the people inside, the so-called priests, and majority of them, or for the fact 100% of them, don't know. So do you have any information that you can convey about why that is specifically represented in Kapalishwara temple?
There are such Shanishwara sanctums in other temples as well. In fact, there are separate sanctums for several of the Navagrahas in several temples. We know that. Maybe at some point of time somebody built it, because the Kapalishwara temple, as we see it today, in fact, almost all the temples of Tamil Nadu as we see them today were not built at any one given point of time. They are a collection of small sanctums which have been built over time. This is what we call the horizontal expansion of a temple. So at one given time, some philanthropist probably came and built one Navagraha Sannadhi, or the temple authorities themselves did it, and one for Shanishwara, because he is a deity who needs to be prayed to ward off some ill effects in our horoscope. So, but why did you say so-called priests? They are priests.
Come on, I mean, having lived in Chennai and been a little bit orthodox in those days, nowadays they are all getting to become so-called priests.
Oh, really?
Later in person when I'm in Chennai.
Okay.
Hello, Chitra.
Yes, please.
I'm Sunita Madhavan.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And what about Kalikambal temple? It is supposed to be the Kaval deity of Chennai.
Absolutely. Shivaji came there. How much can I cover, ma'am?
Yeah, one day I would like to hear about Kalikambal temple from you.
Certainly. In another lecture. Will do.
Yeah. It was a nice lecture, Chitra. Thanks a lot. Chandra.
My pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. It was a wonderful session. You literally took us to different temples, and you have highlighted the normal things that we normally ignore when we visit the temple. We'll go to the Mulavar and worship him, pray to him, and then we'll forget the pillars and the small artifacts that have shown meticulously. We have gone in depth, and this thing was new. The Gopram, like oval Gopram. That was
the Vimanam, sir.
Vimanam. Normally we see it is either say rectangular shape. It will be mostly rectangular shape. This is a news to me, and it was wonderful collection. You have an eye for detail. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Chitra, thank you so much. I'm Sushila speaking.
Yes.
And I'm so happy that you took us to Tirumullai Vayal and Vandalur and Velacheri temples. So, I'm born in Chennai, 67 years old, and still not visited them. So,
there's lots of time, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you for literally taking us there. Huh? Thank you. I'll make my next visit there.
Most welcome.
See you on our webinar next. Thank you.
Sure. Somebody wanted to know why I haven't mentioned any Jain temples. I should have, but that's for another day and another date. Thank you.
Good evening.
Is somebody
here?
Yeah, Aarti, you can go. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Wonderful session. I learned about many new temples. Thank you so much. Maybe you should do a session on Navagraha temples and the Panchabhuta Sthalams of in and around Chennai.
I have already done a presentation on the Navagraha temples around Chennai. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
Several years back, at least 3-4 years back.
Okay. And what about Panchabhuta Sthalams in Chennai?
Not yet. I will work on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's been a very beautiful presentation, and thank you so much. I've always enjoyed yours, and thanks, Sukanya.
Many thanks. Thank you.
Hello, Chitra.
Yeah.
As usual, yours is a superb presentation. Yes, as everyone said, there are many old temples around Porur. What you mentioned just now.
Yeah, the Navagraha shrines around Porur. I covered it in very great detail.
Yeah, I've seen in YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one Kodandaramar Kovil next, just opposite the Trade Center.
Oh yes, Nandambakam. Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. I've written about it also.
Okay.
Chitra, in Old Mambalam, there is Kodanda Ramaswamy temple, which is supposed to be.
That's
another.
called,
That
yes,
is another.
yes. That's
So
also
here
called.
here in Nandambakam, Rama stayed here, I believe. When he was on his way back to Ayodhya, he stayed here. That is why it got that name.
The one in West Mambalam is called the Dakshina Ayodhya, said to have been built by a descendant of, sorry, it's called Dakshina Bhadrachalam, said to have been built by a descendant of Bhadrachala Ramdas.
Yes.
Chitra, I'm Geeta Shankar here.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to know if there are any sannidhis for Vyagrapada or Patanjali in any of the temples?
For Patanjali or Vyagrapada?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sannidhi.
separate Sannidhi, I'm not too sure. But as I said, in the Vengeshwara temple, Vyagrapada is seen in the sanctum, worshipping Shiva.
Oh, okay.
But perhaps, but I'm really not too sure for Patanjali or Vyagrapada.
What about Patanjali? Not there.
Not too sure. You're asking because you're a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
Yes, all right. Okay. No, I'm not too sure. If I get to know, I'll let you know.
Chitra, the temple in Saidapat.
Yeah, there are several temples in Saidapet. You're talking about the Karaneshwara temple, I think, the Shiva temple. Yes. Again, antiquity of which it's a very huge temple campus, but we don't know how old it is. It's been modernized, much modernized.
Hello, Chitra. This is Usha.
Yes.
I want to know if there's any Sannidhi for Aviyar anywhere in our temples, because Aviyar has written so much about Vinayagar, Raghaval and all.
I am not too sure if there is a Avayar sanctum. Not too sure. I don't know of any. Could be. Not that I've been to every temple in Chennai. I don't know.
Okay, outside Chennai? No.
Not to the best of my knowledge. Don't know.
Thank you.
From a pure timeline point of view, which is the oldest temple in the Chennai area?
Very difficult to say, because we have lost much by way of sculpture, by way of architecture, by way of inscriptions. Very difficult to say. The original temple, the original deity, maybe, we don't even know how to date it. And then the original sanctum could have been, as I said, of brick or of wood, could have been pulled down in later times and rebuilt. So we really can't say. That's a very difficult question to answer.
See, the motivation for my question was more from an Amman point of view or a fertility goddess point of view. And there you can have even a stone formless edifice.
Certainly.
It starts the ball rolling. So I was curious to know if the Amman temples in Chennai, like Amman and all of these old names that exist there, don't they represent that in a sense?
Yes, certainly. But how am I to tell you as a historian that this is the oldest temple? I can't do that unless I have some evidence.
So archaeology is not kind of researching into those areas. I'm curious. That's all. No critique.
We need evidence. We need some kind of tangible evidence to go by. Literature, inscriptions, architecture, sculpture, something. We just can't point to a temple and say this is the oldest.
Was Mundakani Amman Kovil a part of the Mother Perumal Kovil originally?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know whether it was part of Mother Perumal.
Because she's supposed to be
further away from Mundakani Amman. So, I mean, that's my recollection, even when I went there like last year, I think.
I don't know the answer to that now. I don't know whether it was part of it, but I doubt if it would have been. Anybody else?
Good evening, Chitra ma'am. This is Rajiv here.
Yes, hello Rajiv.
Yeah, I just have two highlights on Tirumalla Shiva temple.
Yes.
When I visited once, I came to know from the priest that generally Parvati resides to the right of Shivlinga, but in this temple, she is on the left. And one
Go
more
ahead.
is like in this temple, we could find the Shivalinga made of mercury, Padarasam.
Yes, they say that, true, they say that, but since it's not possible to verify it, I didn't mention it. There are many temples in which the shrine for Parvati is to the left. And that could also be for several reasons peculiar to that temple, and that will be to do with the Sthala Purana. There are such temples as well, but it's not usual. It's very unusual.
All right. Thank you so much.
And there is a speciality about this pillar, no, in Tirumalla.
The wooden pillars are also there in that temple.
And
Yes,
it will be usually covered with sandalwood paste, right?
That's right. That's another peculiar feature of that. Oh, each temple has so much to it. There's so much to it.
Thank you, Chichiraji.
I have a comment. I retract my statement that Madhav Perumal Koil and Mundakaniyamman temple are within walking distance of each other.
They're pretty close to each other.
They were originally in one campus, I was told, because this Mundakaniyamman is supposed to be the Yogamaya born to Yashoda.
Okay. Yashoda Garbha Sambhuta. All right. So no, I don't know whether they were in the same campus. I don't have any evidence to go by today. But if the authorities of both the temples claim such a thing, well then, yes. Certainly.
And I was also told that the present Kapalishwar Kovil temple stands on the land of Madhav Perumal Kovil. Because when the idol had to be installed from Santom, they wanted land. So the Madhava Perumal Kovil had the land and it was given on lease. But the tenant became more powerful than the owner.
You mean the land on which the Kapaleshwara temple stands today originally belonged to the Madhava Perumal temple? All right, I didn't know this. Thanks for the information. All right. We all know that the land on which the temple tank of the Kapaleshwara temple stands today was donated by the Navabhavan god. That we know. But this is news to me. I'll investigate. Yeah. Okay, any other questions or shall we wind up for the evening?
Yeah, I have one for you, Chitra, if you can hear me, but this is again relating to those who might like to go to temples and take pictures, etc. And I've asked you this before, but once more. Now, a lot of your presentations or most of these presentations are peppered with some lovely pictures that you've taken and some not so easy pictures to take. How easy is it to get the permission to take these pictures? Because obviously you would need permission because before you shoot in temples, isn't it?
Yeah. So I generally take my DSLR to these temples and I start shooting till I'm told to stop. That's how it works.
So you don't seek prior permission before you shoot?
No, I don't. These days it's becoming more and more difficult, but they shouldn't go on record. So never mind. I just try shooting. That's all.
You got to do it the Indian way. That is the answer.
Yeah, I didn't say that. He didn't say that, but I think he's got a point. What about your advice to young researchers? Because, a lot of journalists, there are journalists who, research on various subjects, depending on their area of interest. It could be anything, could be women empowerment, child rights, some could be on religious activity, on temples, for example. Now, since we are focused on temples this evening, what would be your advice to young researchers? Where would a researcher, for example, in Chennai, where would he or she head to if you really need to find some data on temples of Chennai?
Oh, okay. If you want to research into the temples of Chennai or anywhere else for that matter, do some research before you head to the actual site, to the premises of the temple. Find out what inscriptions there are ahead of time, find out a little bit about the architecture. I know this is easier said than done because our temples have not been documented properly. So they need to do some little bit of groundwork before they actually go so that they can understand it better. In the absence of any literature or anything, go straight to the temple, find out all you can. You have to make repeated visits to understand it, however small it may be.
Go where? Go where is my question. Go where?
No, that the researcher will know. No, what kind of temple he wants to go to. Does he want to document an entire area? He'll have to have that background knowledge.
Would the archive section of the Tamil Nadu government have sufficient material, or the Connemara Library, for example?
Connemara, yes, the archive section will usually deal only with modern history. There are some books, of course, over there. They have a good collection, but I would rather guide them to the library of the Archaeological Survey of India, which is inside Fort St. George. It's a very, very extensive, very, very well-stocked library. And I think that's the place for researchers on temple architecture, sculpture, and inscriptions to go to. Connemara Library also, yes, it's very good.
Isn't there a database of PhD dissertations, especially in the temples of various parts of India, which are catalogued and maintained by, I assume, by some national database at the central government? Don't we have that?
I'm not aware of any such database. If it's there, well and good, but it's not accessible to the best of my knowledge.
Chitra madam, may I have a question?
Sure.
Madam, I'm from Pondicherry, but I have very close contacts with Chennai. So just wondering, since you have gone that far as Tirumallai and all that, are there any cave temples in around Madras?
Cave temples not near Chennai. The nearest one would be in Saluvankuppam, which is called Tiger's Cave, en route to Mamallapuram.
Yes.
That would be the nearest, maybe about 50 kilometers away.
Okay.
I think that's the closest, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Delightful lecture, ma'am. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Is Trishulam a cave temple?
Trishulam is not a cave temple. No, very much a structural temple.
What about Vallam?
Vallam Chengalpet, yes. Vallam has a lot of Mahendravarman period cave temples, but it's further away than Saluvankuppam. Tiger's Cave is very close.
So if there are no questions, we'll end it here. I think those who want to or would like to listen to you or watch your program can always have this at the PIRIN Facebook page. We'll also have something streamed on YouTube. I'm not sure whether that's being done, but I think that may also be a possibility. So thank you very much, Chitra, for coming again. You've been a regular on our Madras Week programs, at least of the Press Institute of India, for several years now. And of course, we couldn't have your presence at the Press Institute, but this, I think, more than made up for it, because we had more than 100 trying to log on. And there was one comment by someone saying that I tried to log on 5 times, and thank you for admitting me. But I must say that, we don't have the controls here. It's, just Zoom. And we opted for the 100 category. But it was enjoyable indeed. And thank you very much. And thank you, all of you, for tuning in and for listening to her and making this an enjoyable evening. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks once again, and good night.
Thank you all.
Good night. Good night.